Motherhood is not something that I talk about often. I personally have chosen to identify myself differently because I do have community. I do have a village of people that love and support me as I am in community with them, raising our daughters. And so I do know that the majority of the world and the majority of specifically African women or Black women do use this term. And single motherhood is something that, depending on in which rooms you're talking about it in, can have and carry this really derogatory and heavy sentiment. And so I want to share a bit more of my perspective on what this looks like and how I also intend and continue to support Black women, African women in the diaspora here on the continent and abroad to return to a place of safety and community so that we can continue to build our families and our legacies. So it might be a little controversial, but I'm happy to have this conversation because I think it needs to be had. So welcome to the channel if you're new. My name is Ashley. On this channel, Ashley in Africa, I talk about my experience moving, living, and doing business here on the continent of Africa. I live in Johannesburg, South Africa with my two girls, and I've been here nearly 3 years, building community, creating resources, and providing an alternative, an option for entrepreneurs, families, and mothers, Black mothers, African mothers that have an interest in relocating and doing business here on the continent. So if that sounds interesting, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who would find value in it. So as usual, I have my notes, and I want to start by acknowledging and showing respect to the community that has supported me, that has given me my flowers, and that continues to do that along the way. In this space of content creation and content sharing, it's a vulnerable space. People that have the emotional capacity and the willingness to put themselves out there face a lot of scrutiny. And we're human beings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, but in this medium, we tend to put ourselves in a position for judgment, put ourselves in position to be evaluated, reevaluated, criticized, and all of those things. And I'm so grateful for the love, the appreciation that I get specifically from, a virtual shout out from a gentleman, O'Shea Jackson, who has been sharing content about the continent of Africa and how he's been able to be successful. And, he adds a lot of humor, a lot of valor to these dialogues. And he popped into a live a couple of days ago that I did and, gave me kudos. And I really appreciate you, O'Shea. And I did get an opportunity to see the show that you shared. I'm going to link it below, around single mothers, in Africa and them coming back. And, I don't defend the position of all women that are raising children solo. But I can speak on the community of women that I am a part of and the community of women that I help. And in this video, for those women that identify most with me and that community of women that I'm going to speak about, this is why I share the beauty, the abundance, the opportunities that Africa has to provide, because it is my knowing that our goal is to provide the best for our children, to reshape and restructure what they believe and what they understand to be a life of abundance, and what they understand legacy to look like, culture, family, community to look like. And quite frankly, it is nearly impossible to do that in a society like America for young children, from my experience, right? And so I do have notes. I'm going to jump into those. And so there isn't one woman that I know personally, professionally, or socially that has chosen the life of single motherhood. Not one, right? We are not in this position by choice after not having done everything we could possibly do to avoid it. And the reality is, what we're dealing with as a society, I'd say even here on the continent, in many spaces on the continent, is a result of what our people, our communities have been through over the last 3, 4, 500 years, and how the systemic breakdown of our family has happened over those centuries. And so I can speak transparently as a woman, an African woman who was born to a single mother, right? I didn't see her nurture or take care of a man. I didn't see her, conflict resolve with a man. I didn't see her communicate boundaries and communicate values and communicate intentions with men. And so these are things that I've had to learn. And quite frankly, in the society that America presents for Black women in those spaces at my age, that's not what I saw. I didn't see that. I wasn't taught that. And so these are things that I have in turn had to teach myself. And while I believe we all deserve empathy, my girl's father was raised by a single woman. And, because there was an absence of that type of guidance and that type of reverence, he in turn became who he became without knowing how to adhere to boundaries or loving communication or compassion or, healthy conflict resolution. And these are things that are coming from a society that is unhealed. And I talk so much about what that process looks like in our own homes and our own societies. But for me and for many, it is very hard to heal in a society that has made you sick. It's just hard. And so I advocate for the removal from that society for many people, for families, for business owners, for high-level executives, for mothers, for fathers. I work with families, I work with women, I work with men who are caring for children solo. And the reality is, not everybody is supportive of their journey because their goal is to shift generational dynamics. It is to stop what has been happening over the last decades, hundreds of years in their own family lineage, to give their children an opportunity to see an environment and a culture where their race isn't a disqualifier, where the act and the reverence of children, families, mothers, fathers is revered, is on display, where our safety, our spiritual safety, our physical safety is not constantly at risk. And, that's why I do it, right? And I do it in a way that provides a lot of different support for people that work with me one-on-one. Right? And so everybody doesn't qualify in this space and everybody doesn't relate to me. I know a lot of women that I speak to that do reach out is because they see me doing what I'm doing. And I'm not here to say it's easy, by no means, but it does require a level of resiliency, planning, introspection, healing, unlearning, relearning, support. Right? And so I try to provide that through my content, through the resources that I create, and also, through the one-on-one calls and when I work with people. And so I just want to share how I support women, because I know one of the biggest things was like, don't bring that same attitude and energy to the continent. And precisely, right? We can't do that whether we're mothers, whether we're single women, single men. There has to be a shift in mental awareness. There has to be a total mindset shift when leaving your everything that you've known and going into an entirely new culture and a new environment. Your mental awareness, your mental maturity, your emotional maturity has to elevate. You have to ascend in that space in order for you to acclimate, adjust, and integrate into a new society, wherever that is in the world, but especially Africa as diasporans returning or, having a trip back to the continent, right? And so, one of the first things I do when I work with women is I ask them, tell me your why. What is the reason why you are making this decision? And most people's reason is because they're exhausted. They're exhausted. They're tired. They don't want to live the way that they've been living. They don't want to put their children in these positions to have to relive the way that they've been living, as it is currently looking like it's getting worse. And so while some may say that's not an adequate reason, their why is their why. But when you decide that the pain of not doing something is worse than the pain of doing it, that is when you take action. And so this exhaustion may come from constantly seeing Black bodies, on the ground or on television or on media. It may stem from constantly being, criticized or experiencing microaggressions in your workplace. It may come from, extreme anxiety every time you're pulled over by the police. It may come from that email that you receive when your child is doing active shooter drills in their school. It may come from a narcissistic, physically, financially, mentally abusive relationship that you've tried your hardest to work through for years. That exhaustion is what so many people feel in America. Black women, Black men, that is their why. And that is enough why for me, right? That's okay. And I tend to follow up with that. How are you getting that support through these exhaustion? Are you in therapy? Do you have a family unit that is supporting you in this moment? Are you, journaling? What type of mental support, physical, emotional wellness work are you doing to get yourself through this period of exhaustion? And a lot of times people can't see the forest through the trees, right? Or there's a trees through the forest, one of the two. They can't see that because they're so entrenched in what it means to just be in survival mode. And so the goal, right? The goal for me and everyone that I work with, period, is work on you, right? Between this phone call and your discovery trip, or when you decide to make your move, you need to be focused on what is going to make you feel better, how you can find joy. And that may be through therapy. I talk a lot about dance parties, moving your body, meditation, mindfulness work, listening to audio clips of, high vibrational music or affirmational, whatever that is, where you can find joy, sitting out in the sun, taking walks, because the goal is to restore ourselves as women, to be better women, to ultimately be better mothers, and then to be prepared for wifehood and to be a part of a family, to be a wife. And the reality is we don't even have the time to do that in America because we're just trying to survive. And so that was one of the things that I think O'Shea talked about was, get married, right? The goal is to get married, but we can't just come from a real toxic situation and try to jump into something else, because if you don't heal and you don't do that work and you don't take time to unlearn some of the things that you've learned and you've experienced probably your lifetime, it's very likely that you can end up on this side, hopping back into something that is very reminiscent of what it looks like over there. And so healing is required. Healing is required for everyone and anyone that decides to make this journey. But I say specifically for women that are doing this with children, because again, like I say, all of the women that I know that are on this journey have done everything they possibly could to save their families, so much so that they depleted themselves, that they gave so much of themselves that they don't even feel recognizable anymore. And so because there is a collective consciousness, an awakening of the divine feminine is realizing that the society in which they are operating in, I'd say specifically in America, because it's the only place that I've lived, is a place where they cannot safely, healthily raise whole, empathetic, loving, compassionate children. And if the children are here, we've got to get them to safety. And we've got to get ourselves to safety so that we can be nurturers and proper divine feminine women for them. What my daughters are seeing from me is something I've never seen. I'm home when they get home from school. I go pick them up sometimes, most times. The ones that I'm sending them off to school with breakfast. I'm home when they come home. I'm there with them doing their homework. We go to the gym together. We go out to restaurants together. We do meditation together. I'm home more than I'm not. So when I'm not home, they're always like, oh, where are you going? Because I'm home with them so much. And they also see me building a business. And they see me being vulnerable and sharing my experience and leading with love. They see me requiring more of people in our lives that say they love us. Because to me, love is a verb. Love is an action. Love is met with action. And so I require a level of healing, empathy, accountability for the people that enter and stay into our lives. Because the people that love and support them show up for them, right? And so all of these things are not things that I was able to provide to them in a society that was making me sick. And so I advocate for women that, hey, they want to heal, they want to get themselves and their children to safety, they want to live a life of abundance in a culture, in a society that values and honors and reveres Black family, Black children, and Black women, African family, African children, African women, African men, right? So, I also will provide resources for those type of support systems. I share them here in some of the videos. And I share those resources when we're working one-on-one, whether that's an email. I also provide a blueprint. This is how you can financially prepare yourself. This is how much money you need to have saved. And this is how much money you need to be bringing in every month so that you can not only come, but you can sustain yourself. Right? And that is very important because no, there aren't social systems here like there are in America. And so if you're used to living off of that type of system, you're going to struggle. Quite frankly, I don't work with women like that, and also there's nothing wrong with that. If that is what you need, there's plenty of times where I was growing up that's what we were on. We were on those social systems and they can be very helpful to help get you to the next level. But when you become dependent, that's a different story. And I work with women that have an interest in entrepreneurship, in self-enterprising to sustain themselves long-term and develop that level of confidence and interdependence so that they can not only provide value to others, but value to their family. All right, I talk to women about the, neighborhoods where they should be considering raising their families if they move to the continent, specifically Tanzania and South Africa. I share my experience with, government schools, private schools, African-centered schools, international schools. I also talk about the importance of getting house help. This is a society where it is normal. It is a part of raising children to have helpers, to have people support you. You're not expected to do it alone like you are in the US. And so, that's important. That's what we doing. And I share the importance of how to find, how to train, and how to work with, and also recognize that this is a job you are providing, but there's a level of respect that comes with that, and how to manage that process. I also provide a community for women. Many of the people in my community, the Africa Investors Academy, are mothers. right? And we have ongoing work. While yes, I again focus on entrepreneurship, how to build a sustainable business, how to create community, how to get access to, you know, vetted professionals that can support your growth. We also do mindful work. We also do energy work. And I'm getting into a bit more transformative teaching because there's a lot of healing that has to happen. There's a lot of mindset shifts that have to happen. Our relationships with each other, our relationship with the opposite sex, our relationships with our parents, our relationship with money, our relationship with government, our relationship with entertainment, content, consumerism, all of these things. In order for us to really reach the ultimate pinnacle of success, we have to discuss, dissect them, and transform our belief systems so that we can go into this next generation. My goal in coming over to the continent was simply about living a better life. But as I evolve and I grow, a better life includes peace, it includes understanding, it includes community, it includes accountability, it includes spiritual growth. And, you know, it's part of the work that I'm doing, that I'm working on myself with, and also, you know, the work that I put into the community of the Investors Academy. So, you know, we're not out here, and again, this is the community of women that I work with and that I'm closest with. We're not out here, you know, trying to take what was there to bring it here, the attitudes, the energy. I am teaching myself and other women how to lean into their divine femininity, how to accept in love, how to walk in love, how to move in love, how to release guilt, shame, pain, fear, how to be in a place where we can be the ultimate feminine sources for our children and our men, because the only way we move forward as a collective and as a community is through family. The only way we can build generational wealth is through marriage and family. And that's what I'm advocating for. And so I stayed away from this conversation for a while because I don't view myself as a single mother, because I have built a community around me of people that are supporting the growth of our girls. And I think once we, as a collective, as a community of mothers, can start to recognize that this type of community is available to us outside of America, because I do see circles of it happening in the US, but there are so many other influences that just can extend themselves into that energy, that it's a bit tough. It's a bit tough. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but I am saying that there are more things available to us here on the continent that make it so we can be successful in our roles as mothers, as women, as wives, where we can actually thrive in that space versus being challenged and inundated with propaganda, you know, violence, toxic chemicals, toxic food. We can actually step into our divine truth, our divine power, when we are in a new environment that supports that. So that's my take on it, my position on it, why I am so passionate about sharing the resources that I do. If you have an interest in working with me or joining the community that we're building, the Africa Investors Academy, I would love to have you. The link is below and also in the comment below. And thank you again to all of the supporters, everybody that provides love, wisdom, guidance, you know, keys, insights. I truly value you. And I would hope that you found this valuable. And if you did, please be sure to share it with someone who would find value in it as well. Until the next video, I'll see you soon.